What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at the final season of Breaking Bad, or Season 5, Part 2. Now, I consider the second half of Season 5 to be on par with that of Season 4. I love the second half of the final season of Breaking Bad, which focuses on the rivalry and the bitter feud between Walt and Hank. So the second half of season 5 pretty much picks up where the first half left off, with Hank coming to the revelation that Walter is Heisenberg, and pretty much the final 8 episodes focuses solely on Hank doing whatever he can to bring Walter to justice, and Walter doing everything he can to pretty much evade being brought to justice. And it's just this one-upmanship between the two. It's Hank doing everything he can to get Walter, and while on the other hand, you have Walter doing these little tricks to try and evade capture, going as far as to produce this phony confession video with Skylar. So, yeah, so pretty much every single scene that Hank and Walter shared in the final half, they're all tension ridden. The performances by Dean Norris and Bryan Cranston are at their peak with these scenes. They're so well done, especially the scene in a restaurant when you have Walt and Skylar being confronted by Marie and Hank. Great stuff. And on the flip side, you have the stuff with Jesse. You have Jesse who's still going with his struggles, and then you have the stuff with Todd and the neo-Nazis, which are like an underlying threat throughout this entire season as well, concurrent to what's going on with Walt and Hank. But it also goes as far where Hank pretty much seeks help from Jesse to try and bring Walter to justice as well, which almost happens until you get to the big shootout where the neo-Nazis pretty much kill Steve and they kill Hank after Walt tells Jack, not to come to the site, And I like how this also catapults Walt into getting his own revenge now, because, the neo-Nazis double-crossed him. And even though Walt was being brought to justice by Hank, you can clearly tell that Walt still loved Hank. Hank is still Walt's family. He tried to plead and beg Jack not to take Hank's life, but as Hank said, Walt's the smartest man he's ever met, but he's too stupid enough to know that Jack made up his mind 10 minutes ago. And that's when Jack shoots Hank right in the head. So all that stuff is fucking brilliant, from the first episode all the way down to Ozymandias, which is pretty much the final appearance of Hank in the Breaking Bad franchise. Great stuff. Awesome stuff. The stuff with Hank and Jesse and they're teaming up together to take down Walt, and Jesse coming to the revelation that it was in fact Walt who poisoned Brock by persuading Saul and Huell to do the business for him, which pretty much fractures his relationship with Walt permanently, to the point where Jesse kind of he beats the living shit out of Saul, and then they nearly tries to torch Walt's house until Hank stops him. All that stuff is really well done as well. And Aaron Paul's performance with Jesse in distress is always the best part. There's always some of the best stuff in Breaking Bad, because you feel bad for Jesse. Jesse always gets the shit end of the stick in Breaking Bad, especially in this, where he gets captured by the neo-Nazis, is pretty much made a fucking slave by these people, and then he's forced to watch Todd kill Andrea point blank range in cold blood, which sets up the season finale, the series finale, where Jesse finally gets his revenge and he chokes out Todd with a chain link. And also Walt gets his revenge by wiping out the entire, by wiping out Jack and his entire crew, as well as Lydia, who also played a hand in Walt being fucking screwed over. So, I think the series finale as a whole tied everything up in a nice way. Walt did get some closure. He had a chance to see Skylar one last time. He had a chance to see his daughter Holly one last time. He pretty much saw Elliot and Gretchen Schwartz and said, listen, set up a drug fund and make sure you only give my money to my family. So I like how he did that. The stuff with Ed the Disappearer, I like a lot, when we see Walt assume a new identity and go into witness protection in a way, and he becomes Mr. Lambert and hides out in New Hampshire. Good stuff. It's actually a good episode. Granite State's actually a really good episode. Robert Forster is Ed, puts on a really good performance. I would have liked to have seen maybe Ed did disappear, do one more episode prior to Granite State, but it is what it is. He had an entire episode dedicated to him, and I like Robert Forster as Ed, and I also like the scenes between Forster and Cranston. You got really two great actors just doing a good job, just bouncing off one another. It's good stuff. And of course, you have Bob Odenkirk as Saul Goodman. He also has a lot of good things peppered throughout this season. Stuff with the stuff with Jesse, and the stuff with him also becoming disappear, which also sets up his story for Better Call Saul, the series, which takes place after Breaking Bad and before Breaking Bad. So seeds were planted for that, with Saul in his final appearance in the series. If anything, I think Walt and Walt Jr. should have had better closure with one another. Pretty much the final thing between them is a phone call that Walt makes to Walt Jr. school, where Walt pretty much says, "Just fucking die already." I mean, I understand where Walt, of course, Walt is Jr.'s pissed off. He finds out his dad's a meth kingpin, and he pretty much unintentionally orchestrated the death of his uncle, who he was really, really close to. And and that's good stuff. Oh, which reminds me, before I forget, when Skyler finds out that Hank was killed, her and Walt have a fucking brutal night fight, and that's where Walt Jr. of course defends Skyler and calls the cops on his own dad, and that's when Walt kidnaps Holly, runs away, makes a phone call when he and Skyler have a heated exchange, and he pretty much says, "Hank crossed me," which you can clearly tell Walt is forcing himself to say just to maintain a threat to himself. And you can clearly tell that it's breaking his heart by saying that, because throughout the series, it's clear as day that Walt truly does care about his family, and everything he does is for his family. It's just the fact that what he's doing, it's immoral, it's illegal. I like all that stuff. It's all handled brilliantly in this final season of Breaking Bad. So I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover with the final season of Breaking Bad. Overall, I think the last half of Breaking Bad is exquisitely good stuff. The final 8 episodes keep you just glued to the screen. From that first episode all the way down to the finale, you can't take your eyes off it, which is why I'm going to give it a solid 10 out of 10. I love it on par with season 4, the final half of Breaking Bad, the final half of season 5, that is, on par with season 4. Great stuff. The rivalry between Walt and Hank is heated, intense, and nuanced. It's great shit. Dialogue exchanges are fantastic. The performances are better than ever. And the series finale, to me, does end on a satisfactory note, with Walt pretty much succumbing to a bullet wound and just collapsing from blood loss while in a meth lab. He dies in the place where, quote unquote, he liked doing and that he was good at doing. So, only fitting, Walt dies in a meth lab. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for the final season of Breaking Bad. Okay, well, those are my thoughts on the final season of Breaking Bad. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.